Shalom, shalom. Welcome to Torah is for Everyone. Before I begin, I just want to mention, I'll say it again at the end, that tonight will be the last Torah study for the summer. Tomorrow is Canada Day, and so the month of July will begin, and then the month of August follows that, and then we'll begin again in September. So in July and September, we will not have any Torah studies.
You mean July and August, not
July and
September.
August. What did I say?
July and September.
Yeah, July and August. I'm glad you're paying attention. Okay. So tonight is a very interesting study. Let me share the screen and we can begin. Hang on a second. Let me get rid of this. All right. So the the portion is called Pinchas, and the Rabbi Ibn Ezra said that Pinchas comes from two Hebrew words, pe and nachash, the mouth of the snake, which is an interesting observation. He's definitely a strong, zealous guy, Pinchas. But it starts at verse 10, but I'm going to go back for us to have a little bit of context so that we see where we're beginning here. So Numbers 25:1. Israel were staying in Shittim. Staying in Shittim is like they were Yoshev has the idea of they were at rest there. They were sitting, they were relaxing, and the people began to commit harlotry with the daughters of Moab. Remember, Balak had hired Balaam to curse Israel. He couldn't do it. But now, and they won all the wars against them, and now it says they called the people to sacrifice to the sacrifices of their gods. The people ate and bowed down to their gods. These are the Israelites eating and bowing down to the gods of Baal Peor. It says Israel attached itself to Baal Peor, and the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel. You see, no one can defeat Israel unless Israel does something to kindle the anger of God. This presents itself over and over in the history of our people, right up till today. The Lord said to Moses, "Take all the chiefs of the people and hang them up before the Lord in the sun, so that the fierce anger of the Lord may be turned away from Israel." Imagine, God told Moses, take the chiefs of the people, hang them in the sun, kill them and hang them in the sun. It seems like a horrendous thing. But Moses told the judges of Israel to do it. Slay everyone, his men who were attached to Baal Peor. Moses had already been involved in something like that when we were at the base of Mount Sinai. And he was up on the mountain receiving the 10 Commandments. And what were we doing? We were dancing and whoring again to the golden calf. And after he came down, he told the Levites, take your sword and kill everyone, brother, sister, whoever was involved in all the harlotry. Same thing over and over again. It happens to us. And there are incidences where I'm not going to go into that have happened even recently about this. And I am guilty myself because I was so involved in the New Age and playing with false gods, even though they look like, they're peaceful, like Hinduism is a peaceful religion. God does not want us to bow down to any other God but him. And at that moment, when the people were upset, it says here, they were weeping before the door of the tent of meeting because Moses told the judges to go and kill the leaders. One of the people of Israel came and brought to his brothers a Midianite woman. Not one of the people, one of the men, Ish. It wasn't a young guy, a man. One of the Israeli men came and brought to all the people in front of Moses and in front of the whole congregation of Israel, brought a Midianite woman. It was like open rebellion. And when Pinchas, the grandson, this is the grandson of Aaron, the son of Eleazar, he rose up, he, he took a javelin, and he went into the tent, and he thrust through the both of them, the man of Israel and the woman through her belly. And he stopped the plague that was already spreading throughout the camps. And look at the day that Moses told them at Mount Sinai to go ahead, the Levites to go ahead and kill them. There were 3,000 died. Here, 24,000 died. Imagine. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Pinchas, son of Eleazar, son of Aaron the priest, has turned my anger away from the people of Israel, while he was zealous for my sake among them, that I consumed not the people of Israel in my jealousy.
Just one thing, like when I hear these stories, and I always say it. Okay, let me just come up. Um, it's easy almost for me. I'll just talk for me, but I think other people feel this way. To almost not fully get it or take it seriously. It's too awesome and too awful that it sounds okay. Maybe it's like another fairy tale like Rapunzel, or it has this kind of feeling of it's too far out and too evil and too disastrous to be true.
Yeah.
But so when I think about it, I think about what does it mean? Do you mind if I have this? I'll just look at.
Of course, that's why we're
because I'm
here.
just thinking of a whole line of things. Like, what does it mean that there's a God, and that if we disobey God, this kind of thing happens? Because if you don't see what's in between, like I look at this stuff, it's almost like, okay, it's an ancient story, whatever. But God, people who've had major experiences with God, I remember talking to different people, at some point, sometimes even feel a terror, even though they're walking with God. This is a being who encountered and chose us as a people, and his being is so awesome that it could almost, he's so awesome and loving that to reject God is like to reject life itself. That's why this is so serious. It's like, it's like hanging over a cliff and saying, I'm going to go jump into the cliff and play around because it's a lot of nice things there. Like, this is serious business. Otherwise, it's just another fable. It's going into the Greek, and they will go into the underworld or whatever, all these stories. And so I had to think, like, what could warrant such a horrible consequence? Thousands of people being killed, hung upside down. It's primal, it's brutal, it's horrifying. And I think if we could see the gates of the world open up for 1 second and see everything that's happening, it's so incredible. So we have to sort of translate this to me, into a way of thinking about the whole universe. Like, what does it mean to disobey God? He's not just a bearded man in the sky. Like, what's it mean? And how do we make sense of it, that God is a loving God? How does all of this make sense of it? Anyway, that's my thing when I read it.
Yeah, I think that because we're humans and we can't understand the nature of the soul, we can't understand the nature of evil. We have stared at pure evil throughout our history. The last one was October the 7th. That was pure, unadulterated evil. People will look at the Holocaust, pure evil. The Spanish Inquisition, pure evil. My great-grandparents leaving because of the pogroms. And God wants to save us from that. He knows what evil is. And his rules, his regulations, his commandments are a covering, are a protection from evil until the end of evil. I don't know when that's going to be. One day we know from the prophets, and we know maybe from the book of Revelation, that one day all that will be over. But right now, we are still faced with evil. And it's like if you have a child and you want to protect that child, no matter what we do, we never feel that we can give them enough protection because we have a nature that is so rebellious. And it's just natural in us. A 2-year-old, when a parent will tell it what not to do, that's the first thing they want to do. No, I do it my way. I do it. It's natural in us. So we're constantly having to weigh and balance the things that we should do and we shouldn't do, at least for those who are close to God. So these stories for me are the formulas, are the the methods for us to. God is saying, okay, I love you, but if you will continuously disobey me, I will no longer protect you from the evil that I know is there waiting for you. That's how I see it. But he always gives us a way of return, like here. So here, Pinchas was zealous for God's sake, for his name among them. And he did not consume the people of Israel in his zeal. It's not like he's waiting for us to consume us, but he's not a human. So his light has his life, and anything that goes against that life, it's going to be lashed out against. It's in nature. He's a force of nature. So therefore, say to Pinchas, behold, I give to him my covenant of shalom. This covenant of shalom, I remember Rabbi would talk about the word shalom. We cannot understand even again the essence of shalom because we've never had full peace on earth. A sense of the word shalom, shalema, is completeness, wholeness. Imagine never, ever being afraid, never, ever having anxiety. Aside from you, Miriam, I know we have all experienced an anxiety, but I know you don't. So
No, no, never, never.
yeah, you can understand this. But we don't have a sense of it. I remember when Rabbi told us that, when he literally died on the table during surgery and he was taken up into wherever he was, he said, you cannot imagine the sense of sheer shalom. And he didn't want to come back, but he did. He came back and he was able to talk to us about it. But anyway, so here he's giving Pinchas the covenant of shalom, and he shall have it, and his seed after him, the covenant of an everlasting priesthood. This, when I read this, I said, wow, what does this mean? Is it his physical seed, like the ones who are descended? Could I be descended from him? Could I have been given this sense of zeal that I have for God? Because he was zealous for God and it says atonement, but the word is yikaper, a covering. God covers us with his love. And those of us who want to be with him, we struggle so hard to be with him day by day. And he gives us a covenant of everlasting kehunat, a priesthood. A priesthood is a link between God and the people. I love this. I just love it. And here we read the name of the Israelite woman who was slain. She was a Midianite. It was, no, it wasn't a Midianite. The Israelite who was slain with the Midianite woman, was Zimri. He was a prince of the Simeonites. Remember Simeon? You had the two men who fought. Remember Jacob gave this blessing for all his 12 sons. And Simeon and Levi were the two who went and killed all those people at Shechem when the prince raped the daughter Dinah. Remember, he wanted to marry her. So it was Levi and Simeon. So here, this Simeon, he didn't choose, obviously, to be like Pinchas. Pinchas was a Levite. It was Levi. Are you hearing me? Levi and Simeon were the two brothers. Levi chose one way through Pinchas and became he was a Levite. Simeon did not. You can see how that's represented here. You understand, Miriam?
Oh, so you're saying you could be in the same family, you could be the same blood and take two different paths?
Yes, but both of them were the same. They were brothers, Levi and
Same
Simeon.
tribe.
Yeah, they were not the same tribe. One was a Levite, one
Oh,
was from Simeon.
right. Simeon, right.
And the two boys went and killed all the men of Shechem,
Right.
told them to get circumcised, killed all those guys. And here you see Levi taking one direction and Simeon taking the other direction. The name of the Midianite woman who was slain was Cosbi, daughter of Tsur, who was a chief of Midian. Midianites were our relatives.
Right.
Moses married a Midianite. This happened like we're all involved with each other. The Lord spoke to Moses, harass the Midianites, strike them. And why? Midat keneged midat, because they harassed you with their wicked ways, with which they have beguiled you in the matter of Peor. That's when, right, what we read at the beginning, in the matter of Cosbi, the daughter of a prince of Midian, their sister, who was slain in the day of the plague for Peor's sake. Okay. I just want to see here. So the principle is that really God wants to protect us. If we follow his commandments, he will protect us. Even if we fail him, if we come back to him, it was as true then as it is true today. Sometimes we read these things and we read the scriptures and we can get lost in the forest for the trees. So we always have to find the thread that weaves its way through these passages that sometimes feel or sound so tedious. The next thing that happens, we had just lost 24,000 people. So now Moses tells Eleazar, and God tells them to take a census. Remember, Aaron had already died. So now it's Eleazar who's taking over. It came to pass after the plague that the Lord spoke to Moses and to Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest, saying, take a census from 20 years old and up through the father's house, the people of Israel, all who are able to go to war. Because I'm sure there were quite a few who were lost. So they're retaking the census. And it was okay to take a census when God asked us. When it was not okay, we got into trouble for taking a census because it was usually done out of pride. Now Moses and Eleazar the Cohen spoke with them in the plains of Moab by the Jordan near Jericho, telling the people, take a census. All the tribe leaders would have to take a census of all the people in their own particular tribes. As the Lord commanded Moses, the people of Israel went forth out of the land of Egypt. Who went forth out of the land of Egypt? So now we're going to be taking a census. I'm not going to read this next chapter because basically it's giving just the names. And I said, let's not get lost in the forest for the trees, but understand what's behind it. Here it talks about Reuben. We begin with Reuben. All the new leaders of the tribes are named and numbers. Some were remembered by things they had done and their consequences. They became a sign for our remembrance. Like here, the Reubenites were counted. They were 43,730. together with Palu, Eliab, the son of Neumel, Datan and Abiram. These are the Datan and Abiram who strove against Moses. Remember when the battle with Korach, when the earth opened up and swallowed them? So here we're being reminded of what happened to us. All through the scriptures, we're constantly going to be reminded. God gives us these things so that we would remember. Why? So that they would become a sign for us not to do the same things. And then right after that, it says, the sons of Korah did not die. Not everyone went down into the open earth with Korah. Some of the sons did not die, and they wrote some beautiful psalms. Then we have Simeon, we have Gad, Ozni, the sons of Judah, and their numbers. Well, let's continue down. The sons of Joseph. This one is an interesting one. From the sons of Gilead, we have Zelophehad, the son of Hefer, had no sons. They had only 5 daughters. Sounds like Tevye. Mala, Noah, Hogla, Milcah, and Tirzah. The only time really women are named in the scriptures is when there's something about what they did and who they are that's important. And we're going to read that a little later on. Then we have Manasseh, the sons of Benjamin. All these are being counted. If you're curious to find out who they were, you can go back and read Numbers 26 and you'll be able to read them. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, to these the land shall be divided for an inheritance according to the number of the names. So the land they're not all given an equal amount, an equal portion of land, because some of the tribes are much bigger. And it reminded me of when we were in Egypt. And each household was to take a lamb according to the size of the family. So there's no waste. It's always a sense of balance and justice in God's words. To the more numerous, you shall give a larger inheritance. To the fewer, you shall give a smaller inheritance. Common sense. The land shall be divided by lots according to the names of their tribes. According to the lot, its possession shall be divided between the many and the few. And then you read all the names of the families. And then it stops, it emphasizes this one. There were 3 families in the Levites. One was Kohat. He fathered Amram. The name of Amram's wife was Yocheved, the daughter of Levi, whom her mother bore to Levi in Egypt. She gave birth to Amram. She bore to Amram Aaron, Moses, and Miriam. And to Aaron was born Nadab and Abihu. Those 2 had died. Eleazar, who took over after Aaron, and Itamar. Nadab and Abihu had died when they offered strange fire. So these things are always, again, to remind us. And those who were counted of them were 23,000, all males from a month old and upward. They were not counted among the people of Israel because they weren't going to be given a piece of land. The people of Israel, they would be scattered among the 12 tribes of Israel, who would be responsible for taking care of them because they were the direct links between them and God, and they would be ministering to them. These are those who are counted by Moses and Eleazar the priest, who counted the people of Israel in the plains of Moab. But among these, there was not a man of them whom Moses and Aaron the priest counted when they counted the people of Israel in the wilderness of Sinai. For the Lord had said of them, They shall surely die in the wilderness. So all the original group that had left Egypt were told that they would die in the desert. So none of those were counted, not a man, except two men, Caleb, the son of Yefuneh, and Joshua, the son of Nun. And Caleb, again, we repeat, was a Kenizzite. He was not a native-born Israelite, and he is named first. Second, Joshua, who is a native-born Israelite. And this is a picture that God is giving us again of the final, when we are all living free. There will no longer be a separation between Jew and Gentile. Together we are coming into the land. Caleb, which means dog in Hebrew, and Joshua, son of Nun. And here we read about the daughters of Zelophehad. These were their names. They were from Gilead, the son of Machir, from Manasseh, from Joseph. Interesting, they were from Joseph. Mala, Noah, Hogla, Milcah, and Tirzah. And they stood before Moses and Eleazar the priest and the princes and all the congregation by the door of the tent of meeting. Now remember, this is after all the pieces of land had been apportioned. And they said, listen, our father died in the wilderness, and he was not in the company of those who gathered themselves against the Lord in the company of Korach. But he died in his own sin, but he had no sons. So why should the name of our father be taken away from among his family simply because he had no sons? Give to us a possession, give us a piece of land, along with our brothers of our father. And Moses brought their case before the Lord. The Lord spoke to Moses. I love this. This is the way it was meant to be. Imagine, Miriam. Imagine if we didn't have to have a government, and we didn't have to have a body of rabbis who told us what to do, or a government who told us what to do. We would have the elders, we would have judges, but we could go directly to God, and God would speak directly to the person he called, like Moses. It would be awesome. We wouldn't need so many of the systems that we've built up. It says here, the daughters of Zelophehad are right. You should give them a possession of inheritance among their father's brothers. And then he talks about what would happen, and if they have to marry someone in their own tribe, and if that person has no daughter, the inheritance shall go to the brothers. And then he continues to talk about all the things that would happen if there was no male to take over. And again, you can read this on your own. Then the Lord said to Moses, now here is, this is sad, because Moses had spent 80 years defending the people, walking with the people, waiting to get into the promised land. But he lost that opportunity, and we know why. We talked about it last week. Get up onto this Mount Avarim and see the land which I have given to the people of Israel. And when you have seen it, you too shall be gathered to your people, just like Aaron, your brother, was gathered. For you rebelled against my commandment in the desert of Sin. In the when the congregation was fighting, you didn't sanctify me at the water of Meribah in front of them. Instead, you took the credit for yourself. This was at the waters of Meribah. And Moses spoke to the Lord and said, let the Lord, the God of the spirits of all flesh, set a man over the congregation. But look at the character of Moses. Moses already decided that, what?
He doesn't fight back. He understands.
And more than that, he's still worried about them.
Yeah.
Set a man over them who may go before them, who may go in before them, go out and in, who may lead them, who may bring them in, that the congregation of the Lord be not as sheep who have no shepherd. Look at his heart. It wasn't for him. He wanted to make sure. And the interesting thing is, the Lord said to Moses, take Joshua, the son of Nun, a man in whom is the Spirit of God, and lay your hand upon him. Isn't it interesting that for when they left Egypt, they were 40 years in the desert, and during that time, Joshua was always with him. He was there with him in the first time was in the battle against Amalek, when Moses turned to Joshua and says, choose men and go fight. That was in Exodus 17. Then he was there with him in Exodus 24. When Moses goes up on the mountain to receive the Torah, only Joshua accompanies him part way and waits for him. Exodus 32, when he was coming down from Sinai, Joshua came down walking with him and telling them he was there the whole 40 days, waiting and watching and listening and learning. He was there at the tent of meeting in Exodus 33. It says, Joshua, a young man, did not leave the tent. And then in Numbers, he defended Moses when Eldad and Medad were prophesying in the camp. And then here, God appoints Joshua. And the interesting thing is, for some reason, Moses never considered Joshua as one who would take his place. He was always, he was with God the whole time. And you know what this reminds me of, Miriam?
I know.
Honestly.
Is Sam in the Lord of the Rings?
No, no, it reminds me of me.
Oh, yes, okay.
When I
Yeah,
think about it, the whole time, Rabbi Percy and I mean, we founded the congregation in 1993. I met him in 1992. 1993, we got the lawyer, we went to the government, we got, the constitution done for the congregation. And I've always just been there, whether I
yeah,
was working, whether I
right,
was volunteering, and then when when I lost my job, I was working full time for the congregation. And then when and he always was looking for a man and could never find someone to take his place. Everyone he thought. And then when he died, here I was.
right.
I never knew I was going to do it. It never even occurred to me. I remind myself of Deborah. It's really funny. But these things, these stories are just show me that God has not stopped working in his people from the beginning to now. But it's like everything is just speeding up. Anyway, the Lord said to Moses, take Joshua and lay your hand upon him, just like the rabbi laid his hand upon me during when I had my ordination,
Right.
and set him before Eleazar the priest and before the whole congregation, and give him a charge in their sight. You shall put some of your honor, your ruach, your adat, your knowledge, your upon him, so that the whole congregation of Israel will know that they need to be obedient to him. See, Joshua couldn't have just come and taken that on his own. You have to be acknowledged. You have to be presented like a leader, like a president of Canada, a United States, has to be ordained by the people. And he shall stand before Eleazar the priest, who shall ask counsel for him according to the judgment of Urim before the Lord. And at his word they shall come, both he and all the people of Israel with him, and all the congregation. Moses did as
Urim is like the Tumim and
the Urim and the Tumim, those
okay.
things that were the lots. They would cast lots. And Moses did as the Lord commanded him. Maybe that's why Jews like to gamble so much. I don't know. He took Joshua and set him before Eleazar the priest and before the whole congregation. And he laid his hands upon him and gave him a charge. He gave him his orders as the Lord commanded by the hand of Moses. Numbers 28. Now the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, command the people of Israel and say to them. So the very next thing that we're going to see are all specific reminders of offerings. We had so many different offerings, but God is going to remind us about specific offerings that He were made at special times. It says here, so that you shall observe to offer to me in their Moedim, the Moeday, here, Moedo, you know what the offering, the due season. And he's gonna talk about all the offerings. The first one here is here in verse 6. It's called the Olah Tamid. It was a continual burnt offering. It was like the Ner Tamid, the light that would never go out. These would be continued offerings, which was ordained on Mount Sinai for a sweet savor, a sacrifice made by fire to the Lord. This was in memory. Again, remember, God was showing us these things now to remind us of what He did on Mount Sinai. We would remember the awesome experience that they had when God presented the Ten Commandments as a sweet savor, an offering by fire. The mountain was burning, and He came down and gave Moses the Ten Commandments. And they would offer a drink offering and a grain offering, and a grain offering in the morning, a lamb in the evening. And then it says here, 9 and 10, then it begins with the first of the Moedim, the Shabbat, the Sabbath day. And then similar offerings would be given. First we have the Shabbat, and it talks about the different types of offering for the Shabbat. And then if we go down to 11, it's the similar offerings for the Rosh Chodesh, the new moons. And to me, this is pointing away from the calendar, the Roman calendar. No, there was no Roman calendar yet, sorry. The paganism worshiped the sun. It was their gods. God was giving us a calendar guided by the moon, which would reflect the light of the sun for whatever reason. Some of these things are hukim. We don't know why. But here he was telling us that these were the offerings: 2 young bulls, 1 ram, 7 lambs. We would see these offerings repeated. Meat, meal, grain offerings, oil, things that some would be burnt up and some would be eaten. Then verse 16, then we go to the 14th day of the first month, Pesach. So we have so far Shabbat, Rosh Chodesh, Pesach, followed in verse 26, Yom HaBikurim, the first fruits, and all the way until Shavuot, the same offerings. So there's a thread that goes through these offerings. All these offerings are offerings of gratitude, forgiveness. He had various types of offerings that He gave us, but they were all always to remind us, Put him first. Offer to me first all the best of what you have. And then we continue. The next holiday, Yom Teruah, the day of the blowing of the horn, the first day of the 7th month. Now, our sages, the rabbis, have changed this as the beginning of the year. They call it this Rosh Hashanah, but according to the Torah, the Rosh Hashanah is Pesach. That was the head of the year. And again, giving them what they should offer as a sweet savor. A bull, a ram, all these offerings are the same. Instead of mentioning, you're just going to go and read them for yourselves. Then the next one is on the 10th day of the 7th month. 10 day after Yom Teruah, we come to Yom Kippur, the day which we needed to afflict our souls and not to do any work on it. But what do we read? Again, we're offering a bull, a ram, 7 lambs, meal offerings, flour mixed with oil. These things were offered and eaten. Yom Kippur was not a fast. Yom Kippur was a day of humbling ourselves before God. And then we go down to the next one. From 12 to verses 34, we're going to read offerings for the 8 days of Sukkot. And each day, the 1st and 8th day, were solemn assemblies, no work to be done. And then verse 39, all the way down, it tells us all the offerings. We would start with 12, then 10, then 11, 11 and 10, and here on the 6th day, 8 bulls, and 1 goat on the 7th day, 7 bulls. We continue down. On the 8th day, you shall have a solemn assembly and do no labor in it. The 8th day is Shemini Atzeret. So Sukkot is 7 days plus 1, 8. Offering a burnt offering, then all the other kinds of offerings, meal offerings. And here is a summary. These things you shall do to the Lord in your Moedim, the ones he gave us. This is aside from all the offerings we made when we took a vow, aside from the offerings we made as free will offerings. Whenever we did something maybe we were glad about something, or we were sad about something, or we were praying for someone who was sick, or we had done something wrong. Burnt offerings, meal offerings, drink. No wonder the Jews give so much. We were trained to bring offerings until Moses said, stop bringing from the very beginning. And all these things were always to help us not to forget our God. And forget means far more than simply not remembering him. It's a little like the phrase when a parent says to a child, listen to me. It doesn't mean hear my words with your ears. It means obey me or suffer the consequences. Not to forget means put this in our heart, that God created good and evil, that God created good and bad, that God told us that he presented us with a choice to choose things that bring life and good, or we can choose things that bring death and suffering. But he asks us to choose life. Everything in the Torah directs us to remember so that we don't keep making the same mistakes over and over. But we are so stupid. We are like sheep. Whenever I eat too many chocolates, and I say to myself, I'm not going to do that again because I know how it makes me feel. And what I do the next time I'm feeling great, I go ahead and eat more chocolate, more than I need to. This is what God is telling us. Remember what keeps us safe. Everything in the Bible directs us to remember so that we don't keep making the same mistakes over and over again. God wants to protect us from evil because he knows the essence of evil. And here, Moses spoke to the people of Israel, told them all according to what the Lord commanded him. Moses spoke to the chiefs of the tribe concerning the people of Israel, saying, oh, no, sorry, that's next week. It ends here, Numbers chapter 30, verse 1. That's where it ends. So let me just unshare and just close with this. I wrote this. We have serpents that we are fighting today, just like the serpents that attacked us in the desert after we complained. Who are these serpents? Hamas, ISIS, Hezbollah, anti Semites. These are the serpents that we are fighting against. And every day I receive videos reminding me that once again, these real serpents want to destroy us. How many countries today, how many people in our own cities are calling out for the annihilation of the Jews, the annihilation of Israel? Just like Balak wanted to do, just like Amalek wanted to do. What did God tell Abraham? I will bless those who bless you. I will curse those who curse you. And through you, all the peoples of the world will be blessed. And they are. Even no matter how much we have failed, our little people of maybe 15 to 16 million in the world are still blessing the world. Venezuela just had a horrible, horrible earthquake. One of the first nations to send people over there and to send help is Israel. The inventions, the things that we do to help others all over the world are because, not because of us, are because God told Abraham, through you, all the peoples of the earth will be blessed. The problem is when we don't sanctify God by our behavior and his name is tarnished, we will suffer the consequences. That is the root of anti-Semitism. That's what allows the enemies to rise up against us. Whenever we complained, an enemy would rise up against us. That is true throughout our history. And the last verse of our prophet Jeremiah, which you will read, Miriam, this week in the Haftorah portion, Jeremiah 2, verse 3 says, Israel is separated for God. Israel is the first fruit of his produce. Anyone, all who devour her shall be held guilty. Evil shall come upon them, says the Lord. So it's not that we wish evil on anybody. We don't. But we have to acknowledge our part in the rise of evil. Because when we are doing right, Israel doesn't understand that we are the nation that was separated from all the others to be the example. You and I, Miriam, are part of that nation. And we have Gentiles, the Ger, the Kalevs among us, who have gone as far as even circumcision, as far as leaving all their old religions behind, all their old pagan ideas behind, joined with Israel, like Ruth, like Caleb. We repeat the same things over and over again. We are one people. And when we are doing what is right, we bring more light into the world and we affect others around us. That's what these Torah portions are about. That's the joy of reading the Torah. So, with that said, do you have any final words? Madame Miriam, O wise one, my son Gamji.
No, just fight on and
You
then
know, it's
move.
so funny. You remind me, do you remember in Lord of the Rings when he couldn't go up the very end, and
Right,
he's trying to get up there, and he couldn't. And Sam said, I can't carry the ring for you, but I can carry you. And I
right.
remember we had gone to the jazz fest and I couldn't walk anymore, and you picked me up and you put me on your back and carried me up the hill. You're my Samwise Ganji. We're in this together to the end.
Yeah.
So before we end today, I want to thank people who are watching us. And I'm hoping that you will continue to read the Torah and to try to find the threads. Don't get lost in the forest for the trees. Don't get lost in all the rituals of that day that are no longer applicable to now, but find the principles that are in it. So today is the last one of this season. Pinchas is a great one to enter to finish. And for the months of July and August, we will take a break and we will come back and do, God willing, if we're all as well and we make it through the summer without anybody killing us, we will,
Oh.
I'm not afraid. I just want it to be fast. I don't like to suffer. I like my comfort. Anyway, so we will continue in September. Right now, believe it or not, we're in the month of Tammuz and we're not far away from the high holidays, but we still have
Right.
2 glorious months of summer where we can prepare ourselves and walk in God's principles. So I wish you a wonderful rest of the week, and God bless you and keep you, make his face shine upon you, and give you his shalom. May we all have Pinchas's covenant of shalom, an everlasting priesthood.
Thank you for everything. Thank you
You're
so much.
so welcome. Bye.
Shavua Tov.